Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, victory in Iran, and how we should be celebrating it. Coming at you right now. Good morning and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Friday, the 27th of June. The 27th. June flew by, and now the purple dust, which tells all time. So let me open up with telling you how I select the viewer mail that I do. So what happens is I look at questions that are asked me, and I have other people that help me pick. But I also look at how many comments. I take a lot of things out of the comments that happen. People will say, X, and I'll turn around and then I'll see how many, no, his brother did this, or no, he was in this movie, or no. And the ones that get a lot of play, the ones that get a lot of comments on them, I have a tendency to look at that and say, well, this is something that people are interacting with. They're interested in it, and so I try to pick something that has gotten a lot of bounce. So today is very funny. I try to stay out of what my brothers do because we're so different. As much as we look and sound, and our politics is very, very different. And we have three stages. We have the left, which is Alec and Billy for sure. We were raised in a family, sorry, I'm leaning out, I left my coffee over there. We were raised in a family that was acutely Democratic, as I was too. I supported the Democratic Party pretty blindly. It didn't really matter. That was the side I was on. That was what I was taught, really. I mean, think about it. When you're in a household where that's the food you're being fed, that's what you have a tendency to like to eat. So there's Alec and Billy, who are definitely Democrats, and then there was Stephen, was the one Republican, and as I kind of transferred over, I had this weird alliance with Stephen. We looked at each other and we would have conversations, and I don't want to get into depth about them, but we're like, when are they going to come over? When are they going to? Well, what's wrong with them? How can you back this? How can you back that? So and it's a matter of taste and opinion and style, and I think it's a matter of prioritizing. I think that's a big thing. What one person can look out a window and see as the most important thing during a fire, or particularly when it's tough times, and another person can look at it and go, that's not what I see. Look at over there, and look what caused it. Look. So we'll go back and forth. But today is Emily and Wes Anderson from Tacoma, Washington, and they wrote, "Hey man, what the hell is going on with your brother Stephen and his posts lately?" That's why I left Stephen out of the conversation. First of all, I was probably, strangely enough, it went in exactly age order. I was very close to Alec when I was a little kid, because he was my older brother, and I looked up to him, and he was my hero. And still, in many ways, I look up to him, and he's, my older brother. There's nothing like that relationship that a sibling will tell you about the next one older than them, particularly when they're the same sex and they played sports and so on. So, yeah, I still look up at him. I look up at his intellect, very, very smart. And I look up at his leadership, and super funny, very witty. We don't agree on politics, that's for sure. Then right below me, the next one, so I had that relationship with Alec till I was, like a preteen, and then he went off, started to do his own stuff because he was a teenager, and you leave the roost a little bit and start subscribing to things outside your home. So of course then I became Billy's older brother, and we got really close. Billy and I, we wrestled in high school on the same team, and we played countless sports against each other on the same team, against each other. It didn't matter, we faced off a lot, but we were very, very close. He doesn't get my politics at all. We're very, very different when it comes to that. And I think those types of things can put strains on relationships, and it has strained my relationship with different members of my family over these last couple of years for sure. But I still love them very, very much, and it doesn't matter. Now, of course, Stephen. So to answer your question, Emily and Wes, I'm not quite sure. I don't really comment a lot on what Stephen does because I don't have 100% understanding where he is in his pursuits in life right now. We were much, much closer, particularly when my father got very sick. My father had cancer, And Stephen and he was a young teenager, and I kind of took him under my wing. He worked for me on different things we did. I hung out with him and his friends a lot more. And that's where we drew our real close bond together. I don't talk to Stephen that much for me to comment too much on, what he stands for, what he's doing. I know that he is a devout Christian, and that I admire him very much. In fact, I actually called him when I wanted to be baptized and become a born-again Christian. It was Stephen that I called for his mentorship and guidance in getting closer to the Lord. And so I'm very grateful and thankful for that. As far as your question about his posts, I think Stephen, tries to do a technique where he's very kind of cryptic, and he wants you to think about what it is that he's writing. He doesn't want to just flat out stick it in your face. He takes a almost a conspiratorial take on it. As I read them, I don't always totally know what he's talking about. He speaks in kind of tongues about it. You gotta try to read between the lines. But he has stepped out of he actually, I can say this, he's kind of stepped out of the political arena. He doesn't really want to be involved in what happens in politics. I don't know the full reasoning behind that. I know that for sure my political stance in backing the president has hurt my relationship with my brother Stephen. And I went from 2016 to 2024 thinking we were in alliance with each other. And I guess, he has parted ways with the Republican Party or with politics in general, I think is how he's worded it. So I love Stevie. I don't talk to him that much anymore. I miss him. But I'm not 100% sure I'm qualified to answer the question about what's going on with his posts, because I follow him. I look at some of the stuff he writes, and my wife and I will sit there and kind of go, what does that mean? So I don't think I know all the time what he means, but thanks for your question. Please, if you can, hit subscribe to the show. I appreciate you. I promise you, I really do. And hit like. And if you can share the show with other people so we can get other people to subscribe to the show and other people to come on board, so we can get the word out there. Because what I try to do is I try to take it, and I'm absolutely, no question, a Republican. There's no question now that I've made the change over, which I think actually a lot of people have. Today is another example. The Today Show is called Victory. And it's just another example of how the press tries to monopolize, control, and steer us in a certain way based on their agenda. So let me read this to you. Historically successful strike on Iranian nuclear site was 15 years in the making. This week's strike on Iran's Fordo fuel enrichment plant used 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs. The design of those weapons and plans for attacking the site had been in the works for some 15 years, which resulted in the destruction of Iran's nuclear capabilities. So if you go 15 years back, where these were initially being designed, the bombs alone, okay, we're in 2010. So Barack Obama is president of the United States. So during the okay to develop these bunker busters, as they call them, bombs, was because people were, in a variety of locations, but Iran in particular, were developing things way underground where you couldn't blow up the building with a standard guided missile, if you will, out of an airplane, off a warship, even land-based. You weren't going to hit it. It was underground. So we had to develop these things that could crush the ground and collapse everything down in the bunker on the site that they were using. But it's telling when you think of that it was 15 years in the making. So Obama and his administration saw the necessity of developing this weapon for this exact reason. That's one important point. No one's really talking about the timeline of that. No one's bringing that to the surface to do the math about it. I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to point it out to you. Warplanes, submarines. This is from CNN, by the way. Very important to tell you. This is from CNN. And by the way, let me just say again, it's not like I don't understand that Fox seems to be very pro-Republican and CNN is pro-Democrat. They are. And the people that own them and the people that feed the information, even when it's slighted, slanted, or outright just lies, or irresponsible reporting, or tasteless, or whatever, because you can't say anything good. The Fox and the Republicans couldn't say much good about Joe Biden. He was the enemy to them. The same goes on for Trump. It won't matter what Trump does. It won't matter. CNN will spit on him and paint him, negatively, no matter what. They just cannot help themselves. They have to do that. So warplanes, submarines, cruise missiles, bombs that weigh 30,000 pounds. After initially favoring diplomacy, right there, after initially favoring diplomacy, U.S. President Donald Trump resorted to an extraordinary use of force against Iran on Saturday night, striking 3 of the regime's key nuclear sites. Trump claimed Iran's nuclear facility had been obliterated, but some Iranian officials downplayed the impact of the strikes, just as they did when Israel first struck Iran's facilities on June 13th. These boys and girls fly a top secret mission. They hit the facilities, 3 of them, where we have confirmed for sure through intelligence and satellites and all kinds of other stuff that they are enriching this uranium. And why would they enrich it? We know, again, we're not guessing. They're trying to gear up to get themselves a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump and his administration are not the ones that came up with the deal that's being broken. Again, that was Barack Obama, that they weren't allowed to have certain amounts of uranium. They weren't allowed to enrich the uranium to the grade necessary to make a nuclear weapon. They have broken treaties and agreements that we are alarmed at because of what that looks like if they got their hands on a nuclear weapon. So it is, I think all of us on either side of the aisle can look at this and say, do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Do you want that government? Do you remember 9/11? Do you remember 9/11? Have you looked at all of the terrorist acts that have come out of this region? And do you not know that from a religious standpoint, a lot of people that are in power in this government and in that area hate the United States, hate them. So the president gave ample warning, step down, come to the table, make a deal now, right now. If you watch this clip, take a look at this clip. Clearly, I said 3 years ago, 2 years ago, multiple times this year, and just 8 or 9 days that post came out before we bombed Iran. Now, I want you to remember something. We didn't fly jumbo jets that we stole or hijacked with suicide bombers and crash them into the biggest buildings in Tehran. We didn't do that. We didn't throw bombs at Tehran. We didn't attack people in Tehran. We attacked 3 facilities that showed evidence that they were gearing up to develop nuclear weapons, which was clearly against the agreement that we had. We gave multiple warnings, and guess what? There comes a time, you watch the classic old, 1940s movie. You better not touch me. You better not touch me. You better. And the guy's, got his hand on him, and then he pushes him. And you're watching one of these videos or an old movie or whatever. Nowadays they go right to a gun and they shoot each other and they kill each other, and it's all special effects. Well, there's not a lot of this kind of interplay, but there is a reality television, and there is on reels where you'll see someone go, "I'm warning you. If you touch me again," and a guy that can really back that up, and then you watch the idiot turn around for the 3rd time and push the guy, give him a nice shove, and he gets lit up. He gets hit really badly, and you think, "Oh, that guy knew he could kick his ass. Why would he be that?" I told you, don't touch me again. Don't touch my children. You put your hand on my wife. The game's off. There's no rules. These people were warned. These people have proven to be a threat to the United States. Okay, well, guess what? You just climbed in the ring with your big mouth and your actions with Mike Tyson. And so if Mike Tyson brutally beats the crap out of you, here's another example. The attacks from Hamas in Israel. Israel has overdone it. You attacked Israel. You raped their women. You kidnapped people that were from other countries, including ours. You murdered a whole bunch of different people and invaded on their sovereign land. I don't know what to say. Maybe you shouldn't have done that. So as they strategically line up missiles to get leaders of who are hiding in bunkers and facilities beneath hospitals or near schools or whatever. I mean, how about from the inside, your people say, yeah, no, don't do this anymore. Please don't bring the rain. Don't bring the rain. If you ask for it and you cause the problem initially, don't sit there and whine months later about what happened to you. You asked for it. I'm not gonna, if someone attacks me and I draw a weapon and I fire at them because they were an absolute threat, they pulled a weapon, they showed their intent, they shot somebody else and spun around, and I shoot them and they say, but you shot him 4 times. Couldn't you have shot him in the leg? Couldn't you have, like, he aimed a gun at me. He shot at me. He shot someone with me. He shot me. So I shot him in the head 4 times. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not going to wait for the gun to come back up. Bum, 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 bum. That's that. So do we want to look at the aggressor who started the problem and say, maybe you shouldn't have picked a fight with that guy? That was probably a stupid move. You know, I'm not sure the fight was worth it. I'm not sure what your reasoning for the fight was, but now you initiated. So you got it. Here's part of my long-running problem with what's going on in the world and what's going on in our country when it comes to the president, the administration, the left, the right, all of it, the media. Read this headline, ready? Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Trump shared this post on social media platform Truth Social. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12-hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. So first of all, our boys and girls go over there and fly this mission. They come back very successful mission. What degree was already the press, CNN in particular, what degree, what is obliterated, how much of it did it only set them back months? It ended a war. Iran had to take a look at that and say, do we really want to poke the bear? I mean, is this, evidently it's not going, we could have used diplomacy, we could have used an approach of, we didn't. They broke the rules, we blew up the facilities, and we blew them up pretty good. So why does CNN feel that with the military jazzed about a successful mission, the country understanding that, we really don't want to mess around with this country having nuclear capabilities, and we've arrested that now and flexed our muscle a little bit. We did. We absolutely flexed our muscle. Why do they have to shit on it? Why? Why would you bring irresponsible reporting in? Because the bottom line is you can't say, wow, no one saw that coming. Trump played it real cool, kept it quiet, made people believe, and then turned around and let them have it and said, I told you. If you break this agreement, you will bring the wrath of the United States military down on you. You don't want that. Ask Iraq. Ask Afghanistan. You don't want this. We don't want this. Don't develop those weapons. And it also turned around and showed our alliance with Israel, which I said in the the video. Let's not even get into right now for this point. We could do a whole show on it. We could have an open debate about it. We are going to stay aligned with Israel. We are going to support Israel. They are our good friend over there. So that's not going to change. That's not going to change. And we're not going to let someone come into Israel. And there's lots of footage of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and Biden and Bush all saying, Israel's our ally. We're going to defend Israel. We're going to support them financially. We're going to listen, we sent $300 billion to the Ukraine. You don't think we're going to back Israel? That's not going to change, folks. We're not going to do that for a variety of political and financial reasons. So I told you we're going to be there, that's not going to change for Israel. Now, Israel, who's a very small country, powerful, backed by the US, but a small country, compared to Iran, Iran's a big country over there, and they're very powerful. Lots of army, Marines. They got a lot of foot soldiers over there. They could do some damage if a confrontation broke and that became a land war. Do we really want to put troops on the ground in Iran? No, I don't think we want to. Anyone here wants to get involved in another Persian Gulf confrontation with a country over there that we have to send our boys and girls over to die. For what? We drop 3 bunker busters. We let them know what time it is. We let them know we're not going to tolerate this. We let them know how powerful, if we make it rain, it would look like. And so if they decide to move forward, if they decide to aggress us and continue to attack us in any way, we'll make it rain more. They can't do anything about that. They can't stop that. Am I in favor of bombing cities and killing innocent people? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Don't give us a reason to be confronting you then. Please don't. Please don't. Or we're going to be able to cite every military base, all your airports, and we'll just bomb different locations into the Stone Age. Imagine we take out every airport they have and no planes come in or out. Take that in your society. Listen, remember something. How many people do you know that are American born that fly to Tehran or Iran and change countries? They want to live over there. They immigrate, they go through all the paperwork because they just like the lifestyle more in Iran, and they see the vision of the possibility of life and growth and the opportunity. So we leave the US and go to Iran. How often do you think that happens? God, I'll wait. Okay, so you get the point. Now, how many people from Iran send their children here to go to school, relocate to the United States, because it's so much nicer and better? Let me repeat that. It's so much nicer and better. The opportunity to start a business, to get involved, to work for a company with benefits, and not have the crazy confrontations that they have that are life-threatening in many countries in that region. So it's kind of crazy when you think about our immigration policies, that we have a lot of people from that region of the world that are in this country now. And then reminds me of Japan during World War II. So if this escalates, what happens here in the United States? What happens with, terrorist activity and people that could be posed as a threat? That's a real concern for me. That's a real concern for me as a father, as a husband, as an American. That's a real concern for me. CIA Director John Ratcliffe issued a statement Wednesday saying Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged, and any attempt to rebuild it would have to be done over the course of years. The CIA rarely issues public statements on such sensitive matters, especially when the intelligence gathering is still ongoing. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said on X that Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed. If the Iranians chose to rebuild, they would have to rebuild all 3 facilities, Natanz, Fordo, and Esfahan, entirely. So here's 2 reports of people that are pretty well connected to the intelligence world. We're talking about satellite imagery. They have people on the ground. They have spies. They do all kinds of intelligence and counterintelligence and blah, 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 blah. Destroyed, obliterated, finito, bye-bye. So if that's the case, why in this country are we sitting here listening to, there was uranium that was put on a truck that they got out just in time, a day before, 2 days before. Okay, you have to take something away from the success of the mission. You have to make the American people not look at Trump and the current administration and go, man, good job. Good job. We shut this guy up. We've avoided what could be terrible confrontation in this region and escalation with Israel, who, again, are we short of sending troops to Israel, which if Iran invaded Israel, I would imagine we would go over there and defend them, or it would be a hell of an air campaign. and it would involve the death of a lot of innocent Iranian citizens over decisions being made by a very small group of much older men that can't let go of the fact that Iran wants to change. Have you seen the streets? Do you notice CNN doesn't show you a lot, and a lot of other news outlets don't show you, how the people in the streets of Iran are screaming for Americans, screaming for and cheering on USA, chants of thousands and thousands of young kids, and when I say kids, I'm an old man, I'm 64, so, but I'm talking about 30 and under, going, rallying in the streets, USA, please America, please. They want to be free. They want an open society. They want it like it is here. They want an opportunity to develop their own ideas and their own things and not be governed and persecuted for their beliefs. They want to be more Americanized. They really do. So, but we're not going to show that. We're not going to show that we're winning. We're winning. This was a victory. Make no mistake about it. This was an absolute victory. You're going to see peace. And if you don't, again, could people change their minds? Could people turn around and ramp up, aggression against our friends or us? They could. Then they're going to get the hammer. They'll get the hammer until they get the message. Will Iran have a nuclear weapon? Let me tell you something. If you don't think Iran is capable of developing a nuclear weapon and putting it in like a crate, a big crate, and sending it over with a boat, delivery, special order in New York City, they are. They are. And if you don't have the necessary testing of all the stuff, the goods that come in and out of New York, San Francisco, the port of LA, if you could put it on some kind of a plane and sneak it over here, if you could take it over here and develop it here and just sneak the enriched uranium over here and make the bomb, it's a really, really complex world out there. There's a lot of ways to produce what's called a suitcase bomb. And what does a small detonation in Manhattan look like? What does a small detonation, especially in a city like Chicago or Philly, it would be catastrophic, and again, the same people, I want you to remember something really, really important, because I always try to look at the opposite or the opposing side to each argument. The same people that are saying Donald Trump, overused his powers, Donald Trump didn't have congressional approval to do this, he needs to be impeached. That is such BS. Do you understand how many bombs were dropped under Bush, Clinton, Obama, Biden? How many places? They never got any congressional approval. They never went in to enforce and sanction people over things. This is not, Vietnam. We're not at war with this country. We didn't bomb their city, but we enforced regulations after warning them that there was going to be consequences. But there's been a lot of bombs dropped in the last 4 administrations. A lot, like thousands and thousands of murders, targeted attempts. Osama bin Laden, well, he had it coming. I didn't see congressional approval about, going over to. I saw buildings drop. I'm not questioning whether or not Bush acted properly or not in his response to what looked to be an attack, a terrorist attack against our country. But yeah, there was no congressional approval. No one asked. No one went to court and tried to stop immigration things from happening with the deportation of millions and millions of people under Obama. That guy threw more people out of here, 5 million more. I don't even know what the number is now. But he didn't have. He had a special thing saying they don't get a process, they're out. He passed a bill saying that they could do that. But Trump does it. 30 injunctions and 30 different rulings against him to stop him from exercising clearly what was the right of many other presidents. So it's crazy. It's crazy to watch it. It really is. That they're just going to make this guy look as bad as they can, because they can't just look and go, smart move, man, that was nice. That was nice. We ended a war. We ended what could have been a very expensive, dragged out, particularly if it escalated more. Right now, they're just lobbing stuff over each other, which is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't sympathize with both sides of having, missiles shot into your city. Tel Aviv is being lit up. So, and Tehran, so no, I don't want any of that. I don't want some kid sleeping in his bed and have a bomb collapse a building around his family. I mean, that's awful. That's awful. So I'm really happy at the result of what happened. I'm very sad that you're not going to give the administration, the powers that be, those brave men and women that flew those missions. I mean, God bless our military, man. We have the greatest military in the world. And they went in there and now they have to be questioned. So sad, but you know what? I believe in you. I love you. Thank you so much for keeping us free, and stay blessed and stay healthy, and know that we pray for you, our military men and women. We really do. Found this interesting. Ex-Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice calls U.S. strikes on Iran a shot in the arm for American credibility. Now, let's take a look at that. This is a woman who was the Secretary of State under Bush. Jr. And she turns around, and you don't hear a lot from her. I was always a big fan of hers. I thought she was a super smart woman, and I thought her heart was always in the right place. It was in the place of supporting America. I wondered why she didn't continue. She would have been a great president, I thought. But anyway, it was a shot in the arm for U.S. credibility. Let me tell you something. Under Biden, we lost a lot of juice, man. We did. We lost a lot of juice under the sky. People were not respecting us anymore. I travel for a living. I get around the world. I'm not like some international playboy and I'm on jets everywhere, but I'm home with my wife and my son and my 2 daughters, and I spend a vast majority of my time in my home. My garden, being a daddy, most importantly, being a servant of God and a partner to my wife. But I do get around. I'm in a few different countries every year. I'm in a lot of different cities every year. I'm on a plane a couple times a month, probably, doing something. And I know a lot of people over the years. And the opinion, the doormat that we had become, and we had, we didn't have that snap to your attention, the U.S. is walking into the door. We just didn't. I think people looked at Biden as being very indecisive, very weak, and kind of shifty. Some of after a while, because remember, they talk too. So if you're dealing with China, and then you're dealing with Russia, and then you're dealing with, El Salvador, and then you're dealing with Venezuela, they talk. They get on the phone together and they go, yeah, Biden was on the phone with me yesterday, and guess what? This guy's, what's his story? Like, you know what he wants? He wants blah, 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 blah. So, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm on the phone with the president making these deals and everything. I can just tell you what high-powered people that I know in other countries have said, that the U.S. had kind of lost their position. They weren't the U.S. anymore. That's coming back now. This was a shot in the arm for our credibility. There's a lot of people looking at what we did going, wow. Middle of the night, planes came in, air supremacy, undetected, successful targeting, mission accomplished. Boom. Iran's on the phone going, hey, we've reconsidered this whole thing with Israel, and we agree maybe there is a peaceful resolution that we could all find some common ground. And by the way, that whole thing about the nuclear stuff, nuclear schmuclear, we don't need to have that. We could go without that. That's okay. Let's go ahead and not enrich the uranium anymore. Could you not drop those 30,000-pound bombs on us anymore, please? Thank you. Will that stay? Will that hold? I don't know. But look for the possibility. Remember, I told you this, like I've told so many things. It's funny, I've been on a roll the last couple of years. Just of things that I have said that absolutely unequivocally have come true, exactly how I said them. We marvel at other people months and years later that say the things that I predict way before. Look for revolution in Iran. I'm not sure it's going to be as fast as I'd like it, but there's a movement going on there. Young mind thinking, creative, free thinking. There's a wave of free thinkers that want to smile and have a quality life and don't want this anymore. They don't. So look and watch. I think what you're going to see is a more democratically minded Iran. I think that's what's going to prevail. I think it's going to take some time, but I think that's what's going to what's going to prevail. I don't know that you're going to get the old school Muslims who believe that the U.S. and anything outside of their religious beliefs will be acceptable, but I think you might see a suppression of the religious qualifications to deal with the rest of the world that will come out of Iran. You look at what's going on in this country. Our Christian values have been stripped tremendously in this country, out of our classrooms, out of our politics, out of our society. So it's no longer the forefathers that made the deals that had Christ involved or that had whatever their religious beliefs were at the forefront of their decision making. Now it's money and certain rights that have to do with lifestyle have far more credibility in this country now, sadly, than our Christian beliefs. But don't ever count God out. Christ is powerful, and He lives in our hearts, and He watches, and He's coming back. So when He comes back, I think you're going to want to make sure you're on the right side of the field. So that's today's show. Thank you, President Trump, and thank you, our men and women in the military, for keeping us safe. Really, that was a strong move. There's no question in my mind that it was a victory. We were victorious in Iran, and that's the truth. So, amen. Dear Lord, thank you so much for guiding us, Lord, and thank you so much for keeping us safe. Your hand that moves all in the world is well appreciated. We thank you for all the abundance and the blessings that you give us, God, health, and our ability to be free thinkers and Americans. So, Lord, I ask you, please help the decision-making powers of these two regions in Israel and Iran, and let them see what is before them and the opportunity to use their American ties now to bring peace to the region and to bring prosperity to their individual countries. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen, everybody. I will see you on Monday. Have a blessed weekend. God is good.